EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today, Mike?
I'm glad to be back here, David. It's beautiful. It's hot. I'm traveling this week. I'm heading to Malaysia on Friday to do some course instruction on EV infrastructure for utilities out in that area. So I'm always excited to be back here talking about EVs.
Now that's a little different, right? So that's more of a bicycle and tricycle type culture.
So they have really good data at some of the country level. So it's Vietnam, Indonesia, it's almost all 2 and 3 wheels, just insane amounts. And from my perspective on the power grid, I mean, that's like charging your cordless drill. Those batteries really aren't that big. It's not that big of a deal, but there are countries over there where it is very, very heavy car use. So like Malaysia, for instance, it's mostly cars that's being adopted on there. Very, very few trucks, heavy industrial stuff like that in that region.
Well, it's interesting because before we came on, I was telling you, and I mentioned yesterday on the show that I'm now in charge of North America for a major EV charging brand, and it's they have some products, as I was going through the products with them, that don't require a transformer upgrade. If, for instance, if you had a gas station and you had a large enough amp setup, some of they have some DC chargers that draw anywhere from 70 to 110 amps. Okay. So you probably wouldn't need a transformer upgrade to have those selling energy. And I thought that was quite interesting because
that's big mega gas station, you'd have that available. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was one of the things that he was showing me. It's like, hey, these ones can go to some place and they're not going to have that, like we had the guy from Denver who waited 2 years to get the utility to connect his level 3 chargers. I mean, the technology in that space changes fairly rapidly, right? Yeah. And because I looked and it's like these chargers I'm getting are anywhere from like 20 kilowatts all the way to 480.
That's crazy.
And obviously there's some cars that take 20, maybe like the Chevy Bolt and the Nissan Leaf. Yeah. And then you've got some of the Porsches and some of the Hyundais that could take that 480, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not many cars that can take that upper end, and we know it's going there.
Catch up on all of that, and honestly, like hearing, walking through that's what I study, and look at is like how much are you going to have to rebuild? If it really, we double the amount of public charging points of this and that, like how much infrastructure do we have to rebuild? So talking about that people are starting, Tesla has done this forever, where they have the algorithm to like cap it no matter how many cars are parked there at their super fast charging stations. But if other people start to get into that makes what I do a heck of a lot easier, and it's better. Like we don't want to have to rebuild the grid because of this if we don't have to. And people are trying to recognize, yeah, it's expensive, it's timely, it's a pain in the butt. You have to do all of these to upgrade equipment. Like, boy, if we can get an algorithm to keep it right below that level that we have to, like, it's a win-win.
So one of the most recent items that was really probably kind of a neat thing is a 2-gun setup. It runs anywhere from 120 to 180 kilowatts. It has 55-inch advertising displays on each side of the charger. So if you were out by the road, you could have advertising on both sides. It said it's like 20 times brighter than a TV set, but you can be showing advertising. And on top of that, it has a 208 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Wow.
Okay. So now obviously here in Nebraska, we don't have peak time for electricity. Okay. Mm-hmm. But if you're in the, somewhere out west where you get different rates for electricity at different times of the day, this is ideal because you could charge that could charge maybe 5 cars during peak energy cost time.
It would bridge that gap. It would, at a minimum, like in a perfect scenario, it levels it out, but at a minimum, like it shrinks it,
Yeah. But you look at, you talk about grid instability. All of a sudden during peak time of the grid, this is taking power out of its own system.
Yeah. Or, the counter to that is the vehicle to grid where it's, hey, if it gets really bad, like, push some of that back up. If there's no cars there, and there's a high value for that during those peak times. That's why data centers can't connect. That's why there's all of these challenges. It's during those peak times. So from a market standpoint and a power market, like those couple of hours are very valuable. They can get very lucrative very quick if you can have firm capacity. Like no, don't matter the day of the week, time of the day. If you want 100 kilowatts, I will give you 100 kilowatts. When that gets called, that firm capacity value is getting really, really high in a lot of markets.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and I wonder if you were charging and you were going to charge like a two-wheeler, what kind of kilowatts would those be able to take? Or they pretty much just need a level 2 chargers?
They don't even need level 2. Like the two-wheel vehicles, I mean, we're not the peak power consumption of those batteries and how they can charge isn't even in kilowatts. It's more in the terms of watts.
Okay, but if I was traveling, let's say,
yeah. Like how fast could you? It's lower. It's lower. They're not made for that. So the model I've seen for a lot of those, it's that those are more replaceable. Whereas you've got a big bank of them. There's a dozen of them sitting in there, changing out your propane tank kind of thing. Where you walk in, I take my old battery, plug it in, take a fresh one, come out, because they're not big. That's something somebody can pick up and move into something like that.
It's interesting. So you're going to, is it Malaysia first or Indonesia? And you're going to more than one country though, right?
Yeah. It's it's Malaysia. There's a west part that's on the mainland, and then East Malaysia is on an island. So I'll be in both parts. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It sounds like an interesting place to go. You just wouldn't have expected that, right?
No, it's really interesting. And, so far we'll see how it goes, but it's, questions I've got ahead of time from some people and what it's looking like. It's okay. I think we're all kind of in the same boat, wondering the same things and how stuff's been tested and tried out. So it should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm speaking this Friday at Earthstock in Santa Monica, California.
Nice.
And I'm part of a green technology panel, but I'm representing EV World and speaking about electric vehicles.
Cool. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. And then I'm going to a nuclear conference on Saturday, also in LA. So that'll be interesting
maybe
stuff.
we'll do some like man on the street reporting next time.
You never know.
Back.
Yeah. Anyways, let's. Here was something I thought was kind of interesting. In the EU, so right now in the US, EV tax credit. Excuse me, guys. I just got a scratch in my throat. In the EU, renewables have hit 54% of power generation in the second quarter of 25. Solar is by far leading the front. And I found this interesting because in the US, we're getting pushback against solar and renewables right now with the current administration. And Trump was saying that green energy, well, you're saying climate change is a scam.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't associate everything with renewables as being part of climate change. I talk about air pollution and all that all the time. And we know that cutting back on coal saves lives.
Yeah.
There's lots of data to support that. But excuse me, guys. But solar became the EU's single largest electricity source for the first time ever in June. It was 22% of all power in Europe. It barely edged out nuclear at 21.6%, which I didn't know Europe used that much nuclear. Wind at 15.8, hydro at 14, and natural gas at only 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very different profile. Yeah.
It is. I mean, in the U.S., we were around 19% nuclear, 18% coal. What's interesting is they didn't even mention coal.
Nope, it's that low. I mean, we're still up there with coal, but after the 2000s and 2010s, like we have so much wind. We have so much wind, and you can. I mean, the part of the country where we're at, you just drive down an interstate and turbine after turbine after turbine that's out there. So that's been the forefront. And it's, like you said, solar's been a tough one. Just to get going, the economics weren't there for a long time. Even with subsidies and everything like that. So it's just taken time to get its foothold.
Well, this article doesn't mention the US at all. Aren't we like 22% wind, solar, and hydro combined? Something like that, and 20% nuclear. I know we're like 42% or something like that. If you combine nuclear,
and everything.
Yeah, with wind, solar, and that, it's a little over 40%. and then you got LNG's like 40% and coal's still like 18, something like that. But this was here. So Denmark is 94.7% renewables.
Norway right up there too. I think they're almost 100, aren't they? I mean,
Norway
94% is pretty much 100. I mean, that's pretty.
It's pretty close. These were the top ones. Latvia was 93%, Austria almost 92%, Croatia 89%, Portugal 85%, and at the bottom of the list for renewables.
Well, it's renewable. I mean, with nuclear under the renewable umbrella. Right?
I think they're including nuclear, but I can't be for sure on that. But these aren't countries. So like, I don't think Denmark has nuclear. For instance, the notable countries with nuclear, really is France, but there's others. I just don't know which ones they are. But at the bottom end, it was Slovakia is at 19.9%, was the very bottom. That's on par with the US. And
it's one of those. I actually crossed the border from Slovakia to Austria last year or 2 years ago, and it's like wind. One side, no wind turbines. The other side, nothing but wind turbines when you cross that border over there. So yeah, I have seen that in action of why the discrepancies between those two countries.
Yeah, Malta was at 21%. Now Malta's a pretty damn small country.
Well, it's an island too, isn't it?
Yeah. Czech Republic was at 22%, but all three of those countries are right along where the U.S. is. Yeah, but it's just so crazy to think about that we try to criticize that, yet so many countries are functioning on renewables. 15 EU countries saw their share of renewable generation rise year over year. Luxembourg was up 13%, another small country. Belgium was up 9%. Largely driven by solar. Across the EU, solar was about 37% of renewable generation, followed by wind at just under 30%, hydro at 26%, geothermal at 0.4%, and biomass at 7.3%. That's up 26% of renewables of being hydro. I guess is surprising to me. It's funny. I hear criticism of every type of energy. I mean, geothermal has summons evil spirits. Hydro kills the fish.
Only knock against geothermal, right? Otherwise, it's just we drilled a hole and it's hot in the hole, and we use that heat.
Right. Yes, but it's also
gets cold, then it gets hot, and we use that.
It's summoning the evil spirits from the middle of the earth. I mean, that's I mean, I'm not trying to criticize Hawaiians, but that is their main complaint. And all of the geothermal has been consumed by lava. So the evil spirits came and took care of it.
That's why I thought, like Hawaii and even some of those Caribbean islands. I mean, they're big volcanoes. Shouldn't that geothermal potential be through the roof?
You'd think so, but it is just I don't know. It's just an interesting play. And then I had somebody the other day. I was looking at an article that was talking about why nuclear is so much better than hydro, because hydro is so bad for the environment. And I'm just like, really? You're picking a hydro? Of course, there was that, those dams in Oregon that got taken out. But
that got taken out.
Yeah, I just like, there's people that hate everything. You can't find, those people that say windmills are ugly. Well, I'm not disputing.
I'm not disputing that. No.
Yeah. There's truth to that. But
I mean, that was, when I worked at a utility and siting projects and things like that, like when people would come in and like, look, this is my beautiful view today. We moved here because of this beautiful view. And like, you're going to put those right there. I mean, yeah, sorry. I don't really have an argument against that. Yeah. They're not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's important. They're kind of.
Have you ever thought of curtains? You could put a big LCD screen there and just show what it used to look like.
Yeah, just show a beautiful sunset 24 hours a day.
Like the people that are playing the fireplace,
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, on another topic, so Geely Automotive, which owns Volvo, I think MG, and some other brands is starting to assemble in Indonesia. And so they're moving, so they're still manufacturing all the parts in China, but they're moving assembly to Indonesia as the US and EU tariffs rise. And we're starting to see more and more of this, of people, you and I were talking about people that have moved their facilities to Turkey, you know, as a for instance, because the tariffs aren't as high on Turkey then, and the labor is still fairly cheap. And Turkey actually makes some pretty, has decent manufacturing. So they do a lot of things like in the home space. They manufacture flooring, all kinds of things that you might see like at a Home Depot. They manufacture lots of products, and they're, they still aren't quite as cheap as the Chinese stuff, but the quality's good.
Yeah,
and so
Turkey's.
they make good stuff.
When it first came back, and they're like, "Yeah, we're moving to Turkey," and we're out of Turkey, and it's like, "Why?" Like, oh, yeah, okay, that all kind of makes sense. It all kind of lines up. So yeah, it's going to be a hot spot.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of confused why Turkey is the favored nation, but they're kind of, if you look at them from a political standpoint, well, you look at Syria, okay, so like the U.S. helps one party, Turkey declares those people as terrorists, okay, and then you got the current administration of Syria now that's taken over, that were the rebels. Now they're the leaders, and they're trying to make peace with the U.S. I think Trump's son went to Syria. I think we actually had a semi-official visit, and so we're trying to bring them back in. But you just look at, 1 year Turkey and Israel are allies, the next year they're not. There's just different things on a geopolitical stage.
Turkey's the crossroads, right? It's the crossroads between Europe and Asia and the Middle East. All of that kind of comes together. And it's the old, Byzantine Empire. that's where Rome split too. It really has been that East meets West for its existence.
Yeah, let's go make some products in Istanbul.
There you go. Not Constantinople.
No. Change the name in 1400s. Yeah. All right. So I got one that's kind of interesting in the stock space. Cantor Fitzgerald has raised their Lucid stock target price to $26 based on the gravity. Now, cool. Their stock, I remember it was like $5 not that long ago, and it's definitely been improving. It's let me see where it's at today, if I can get my computer to react. Oh, it's almost there. It's like a 23.93. That's a big improvement over the last year. Let's see. Let's see where we're at.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that last year or the year before, of like, just because of who backs that product, it's one of those, it's not going to go away. It's very low right now.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like a lot of risk in that brand, because it's not going to go out of business just because of their arrangement with the Saudis. And I don't know. I find that interesting, but I think it's nice to see that it's getting a little bit of love in the stock market now. Let's see what I wanted to talk about next. I got a few different articles that involve Tesla. Tesla pleads with the White House not to bail on crucial climate standards. Now, I don't know if I would, they throw the word climate in this article, but it's really, it's the car emissions. So there's been certain emission standards, and there's talk about rolling some of those back. And that would be it would be a major setback.
Yeah,
there's more and more cars on the road. We don't need more air pollution. Trump has been a critic of environmental standards, and earlier this week said that climate change was the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world. But emissions are more than one thing, right?
Mm.
Like I was saying earlier, I mean, it's clearly a poison. I mean, I hear people have said, it's like, oh, you don't like EVs. Well, go in your garage, turn on, your gas car and just leave the garage door closed. And then try it with an EV.
And try it with an EV.
Or do it with the EV first.
I've repeated that to people too as well. This and that, like, just think about it logically. Like, it's, you die if you inhale, car fumes. We can't breathe it.
Right. And it's just kind of wild to see that people are, behaving that way about this. And,
and it's just, it's one of those, it's hard to take a position of anti-efficiency like that. And that's ultimately like emission standards and everything like that, whether it's from EVs or just cars getting more efficient. Those are kind of the things we want to see. We want to see more miles per gallon. We want to see less efficient from not just an environmental standpoint, but cost, and operating cost, and where those things are at. It just kind of makes sense to go that way.
Yeah. So one thing, in the United States, we don't have air pollution the same way they do in other countries. Okay. And, a lot of your cities in China and stuff like that, just from the increase in EVs, they've seen air pollution roll back and some of the smog roll back. The United States has, because we've had, stronger emission standards for a long time. We don't have as much of that, but we also don't have the manufacturing in our cities. We don't have the coal burning in our cities. The United States has made a huge reduction. Since I think starting in 1990 when we first started cutting back on coal. So we've been slowly rolling it back for 35 years.
Yeah, and it's been like, for U.S. perspective, I mean, it's Los Angeles, right? That was always the smog city and everything like that, and that has improved so much. But it was early COVID, when everybody was off the road, and they showed the sunsets, in like Mumbai or places like that, where it was, holy cow, people saw the sun for the first time in a decade because all the smog cleared from vehicles on the road, and just lower production because people were staying home.
Yeah, I've had people say that if you climb up on a water tower, even here in Omaha, where it seems like we have no smog, you can see a thin yellow layer, that sits above the city, kind of thing, that you really can't see from the ground.
Yeah, I can buy it. I mean, you get a little bit out of town and, kind of see that. It's just, you can see Omaha from a distance. I mean, that just kind of stands out a little bit.
Yeah, and it's got a little bit of that smog. But but Tesla's trying to push them. One of the things, if those companies aren't hitting their emission targets, they have to pay Tesla for compliance credits, which generated the company $2.8 billion in revenue last year.
There we go. Okay.
So, there's some fun. Hey, I'm reporting the whole news. Okay.
I know
I'm not biased. I don't care.
Oh no, and like anybody who would ever think, well, Tesla wants those for the goodness of their heart. God, no. Like, that's
no. They're being good corporate citizens.
Yeah, they're good.
They're being good to their stockholders.
Business. Yeah.
Yes. Let's see. GM to pay $145 million fee for excess emissions. So U.S. regulators have told them, after a multi-year investigation found the automaker's vehicles from certain years had emitted roughly 10% more carbon dioxide than previously known. This was on Wednesday. That's probably last week. But that's still $145 million, for that. I mean, that's certainly a bit of a change. I had so the subsidies, and this one is this is definitely kind of a biased topic, but so the $7,500 EV tax credit is gone, but each gas car still gets $20,000 plus in subsidies. Now, this argument is a little different. It's saying that because people get sick from air pollution, that the healthcare costs add up to their $20,000 per car. That's very subjective. It's hard to show the math for that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, look, I want to clean up the environment. I'm not big on making these straw man arguments. I don't know. I'm
with on some of those, and show me your form, and I guess that makes sense. Put it there, but you could also argue that stuff away pretty quick by changing a couple of the variables in there.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny. I read something about that. It's like, well, how do you really justify that? Are the gas car manufacturers really being subsidized by the government? I mean, it's kind of a wild thing. Anyways, back to the tax credit again and Tesla. So if you lease a Tesla, now today's the 1st of October, new people get a $6,500 credit against the price of the vehicle before the lease is calculated. So they're right away giving a $6,500 tax break, which kind of shows that $7,500 was, this is like the thing with solar. When they had the 30, well, I guess you still have it till the end of the year, but you have that 30% or 28% tax credit. In reality, that's just extra profit to the solar company. They're marking it up more. You'll hear me. Okay, so folks, if you hear me call solar a scam, I'm talking about the way it's sold to consumers. I'm not talking about grid scale solar, okay, or DIY solar. Solar is definitely great to have, and it's got great applications, but the economics of having solar at home, I think it's really overpriced for what goes into the supply chain. Okay. Yep. And if it was even half the price that it's typically sold at, it's still tremendous profit to the solar dealers.
There was a big upfront. People could lean on it. Oh, it's each installation is unique and bespoke, and we have to put in all this time. And it's cookie cutter now. I mean, it is so cookie cutter. Even after a couple of installations, you have economies of scale. You know what you're doing in all of those places. And what hasn't helped those direct sales, like at least the state we're in, the two biggest companies that came in and really drove up sales, I think, are now barred from doing business in the state.
Oh God!
Because of pressure tactics and poor business ethics, and like it's really heard horror stories of pressuring little old ladies to sign on the dotted line for a $25,000 commitment of solar that they don't need, that didn't make sense or anything. So people have definitely taken advantage of that on the direct to consumer sale side of everything.
So the economics of solar kind of work out like this: a kilowatt of solar panels installed from a solar dealer that's going around knocking door to door, giving you financing, giving you the tax credit, all this is about $5,000 a kilowatt hour, okay, that it's supposed to produce, okay? The actual cost to provide that, if you're buying the panels in bulk and you have your own installers, you're not just doing a one-off job, is about $1,000 a kilowatt. So it's $1,000 versus $5,000. Wow. Okay, and then you're getting a whole bunch. So let's say you're getting 10 kilowatts installed, and you have a $50,000 job. It's $10,000 to put the stuff in. That other $40,000 is going to pay the sales guy, who might be getting $10,000 for selling it. They're getting at least $5,000 for selling it, and the company's making the rest.
Yeah,
and that's a huge spread in any industry. Okay, and I'm not saying that people don't deserve to make profit, but that's really getting up there. If they were selling it for $2,500 a kilowatt hour, they're
still doing all right.
They're still doing all right, and that's kind of where I have an issue with that. And if you get to grid scale solar, it's only like $700 or $800 a kilowatt to put that in. But those are people buying acres of panels, all in at once, and so I'm just saying that the economics of solar. So when you're talking grid scale solar, that price for them to buy that is like 1/6 of you buying it for your house, for the same thing, essentially, so that's where I have issue with the whole thing. Like we've seen, like the Elf that had the solar panel on the roof that actually made the thing go like at least 10 miles per hour.
They made it go a little bit further. I mean, it was good.
Yeah, with no pedaling during the daytime, it would just go. And there's absolutely good. I mean, we've seen where
The other thing with grid scale is competitive bidding. So there's 3 or 4 companies that are bidding those big jobs. So it's, hey, we have this, we're putting it out there. So there's competitiveness. Whereas the door-to-door say, that kind of thing, it's point of sale. Like, this is it. Have you made the decision? Have you done your homework? Hey, this is a slam dunk. We want to do these things. So it's not. You think it should be like I get 2 bids if I have to have big plumbing work done, or something like that. Or this is a big project around my house. So hopefully it's going to start to get to that, and the industry will, just from supply and demand, will start to police itself better. But if everybody's cleaning up on it, then they're going to keep in bed together.
Yeah, but the thing is, like I'm saying, when I say solar is a scam, I don't mean the technology. I really am talking more about some of how that operation has gone, and the 30%. Well, you see all these ads. It's like, you may be able to get this for free, but their whole thing was you could get it for free because you weren't paying an electric bill anymore.
Yeah,
was the theory. But in Omaha, you still got to pay $30 a month to OPPD.
It is. Our utility inverted its rate structure a couple of years ago to account for that. Most utilities are heavily focused and leveraged on the energy sales rather than the fixed cost. And the real model is those things are flipped. Like, most of your expenses, your flipped costs or your fixed costs, and the lower amounts, the variable energy sales. So they did that, which is not a bad thing. I think this is what I see around the industry and where things are at from the utility space. Rates are going to go way up. Yeah, Oasis. He just posted on there. Yeah, rates are going to skyrocket because I think just the cost of materials, the cost of all of that thing, utilities have been undervaluing the actual cost of what it takes to provide, which is just going to make solar that much more competitive.
My EV charger manufacturer also makes transformers.
Let's go. I mean, if they have that is a shortage.
Yeah, they can supply the transformers too. Yeah. So that's
a big deal.
Yeah, it is. All right. So we talked about Tesla lowering their lease prices right away, and let's see. I had an article about Australia that it's talking about powerful lithium batteries and written off EVs. Now hot property at salvage auctions. So all across Australia at salvage auctions for when, cars are being sold off by the insurance industry after they've been totaled out. And as opposed to being the regular parts people, there's people showing up to buy the batteries. And so they're trying to buy the cars just for the batteries because there's so much demand for them. And it's just kind of funny because people are like, well, what do you do? I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people it's like, well, what about all the batteries going into landfills? It's like, they're not going into landfills. No, those things are gold.
Yeah.
And so people are repurposing from everything from solar storage units to off-grid energy systems that can replace diesel generators. A auction place says he sells about 100 salvaged EVs every month, and interest is surging. There's strong demand for these. There's a whole bunch in Australia of Second Life battery startups, and but we've seen this. We showed that one where it showed all of the EV batteries in the field with plastic bags over them to protect them from the rain. Then they were all sitting on their own pallet. So I guess if any of them caught on fire, it was only going to burn right there.
But that's been a big deal in Australia for probably the past couple of decades, because they are so remote in places there where the cost to bring traditional electric infrastructure, it doesn't make sense. And it's not reliable. You're running 50 miles, 100 miles of just one line down, and that's how you feed all of these remote communities in the outback and old opal mining places and areas like that. So kind of this remote distributed generation model it's really, really effective in parts of Australia. So not surprised to see them jumping on that.
So at the auctions in Australia, if you have a vehicle under 2.5 years old with less than 15,000 kilometers on it, they're going for $9,000 to $14,000.
Just the battery pack?
Well, no, I mean
you get the whole car, but
you get the whole car, but that's what it's going for. But if it's a 12-year-old one with 130,000 kilometers, it's going for 2,500 to 6,500.
That's
That's
crazy.
still, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
6,500. I mean, we hear of some Nissan Leafs selling
Mhm.
for that, right? You know, so
That's a big
that's
number. Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of money. Now that could be Australian dollars too, you
I,
know, and perhaps it costs a lot to get this stuff over there. But financial years of salvage EVs increased 200% year over year. And the wrecked vehicles have much higher price tags than combustion engine cars. So it's funny when we talk about all the depreciation on EVs. Well, if they're wrecked, they're worth a whole lot more than a gas car wrecked.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting because we talk about this kind of topic from time to time,
What
and
we think of like wrecked and like, well, aren't the batteries damaged? If people don't know, like EVs, it's a bunch
mhm,
of AA batteries that are put together. I mean, they're more advanced,
essentially,
but it's effectively they're little cylinders and they're all grouped together and they're packaged in modules, and then those modules are connected together. So it's not like, one of them gets damaged, the whole thing's not salvageable. Like you can pick those different pieces and modules up, and you can even replace the little tiny AA batteries inside of them, with new modules and get those to be effective again. So it's one of the pads is starting to go bad, or one of the packs, like, well, there's 3 or 4 more of them that are probably just good.
yeah, it's interesting just to see where that's where that space is going because it's like, hey, don't go into the battery recycling business anytime soon because that's just they're not being recycled; they're
They're
being
being
repurposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I there's a lot of people thought they were getting into that recycling business. I think they're really disappointed because there's no feedstock for that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's some, but not what they were expecting. And the batteries are lasting a lot longer than people expected too.
That's a
So
big part of
that's
it.
a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I got a story I picked up on LinkedIn. Somebody's talking about a new 4 gigawatt renewables joint ventures coming forward in the U.S., even as the federal policy tilts back towards fossil fuels. A Spanish developer called Elmaya. What's
Oh,
that?
the one of the big Iberdrola is a big Spanish one in that space, but it's a different one. Okay.
Yeah, this one's called Elmaya Energy, and London-based Atlantica Sustainable Infrastructure just launched a company called Elmantic, a partnership to build wind, solar, and storage across the western U.S., including the ERCOT and WECC regions. ERCOT's Texas, right?
Texas. And then
Yeah.
WEX, WECC is everything west of the Rocky Mountains.
Okay. Um, let's see. The first projects won't produce power until close to 2030. They're going to bide their time in the hope that a more renewables friendly administration can be in charge. That's going to definitely be a coin flip because it's probably the next election. I'm going to predict it's going to be JD Vance against Gavin Newsom will be the two front because in the Democratic Party,
Yeah.
Gavin's a good looking guy. He's been the governor of the biggest
Oh, and
state in the
he's
country.
making a name for himself, social media.
Yeah.
He's at front. He's keeping himself front and
Yeah.
center right now.
Yeah. So he'll run and it'll be another tight presidential race.
Yep.
I think it'll be a real tight race with Gavin's advantage being on looks. And a lot of times it's really hard to not win the election because Gavin's like a movie star looking good.
Yeah. If you don't
Yeah.
have that charisma, just
Mhm.
look good, people, yeah. Okay. He looks like a good guy.
Yeah. So
Good
I
look.
mean,
Yeah.
in the space you and I are in, Gavin's a good guy, right? But he gets a lot of criticism for some of
He has he's a lot of policies. I mean, if you're very, very far to the left, there's a lot to criticize about him too, and what it looks like. But he's also, this time and place, he's a pretty good counterpoint to a lot of things.
Yeah, I remember doing some studies on or some questionnaires on what my political views were and who I most matched up with. And this was like back in the 2016 election, so it's been a while. But I agreed with 70%. The people I agreed with the most were Trump and Bernie Sanders. And I agreed with exactly 70% of topics with both of them, which means at a minimum, they had the exact same stance on 40% of topics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So while people think that these people don't agree with each other, Trump is more centrist than people they always try to as some kind of weird, far right type thing. And it's like he's a very centrist president, but it's really hard to fathom because people paint Bernie Sanders as being so far
So
left.
far
But the funny thing was he has no issues with firearms. He's perfectly fine with the Second Amendment. That wasn't a hill he was willing to die on, right?
Yeah.
And so he's not willing to alienate people over that. And so it's but I really couldn't peg what the specific issues were, but I leaned left on a lot of social issues. So it was probably, I was probably agreeing with him on a lot of social issues, but
Yeah.
it's just like,
It's not to dive into politics, but there's
but I'm just saying
that people
that
agree on, and it's, boy, so much of that. It's just we're all in the middle, and we all kind of agree on all of this stuff. And well, maybe I think a little bit different. You think, no, in principle, we all agree on so much stuff.
there's probably most things that we're trying to make decisions on. We would probably make the exact same decision on like 95% of things.
Yes. If it came down to
it's these things that, well, you and I aren't deciding foreign policy. You and I aren't deciding economic policy. We're not deciding, women's rights. So whether we agree or disagree is irrelevant, right? Because, in the long run, we can go vote how we feel, but, people shouldn't make that.
Well, you don't talk politics because, well, we're not going to change anything, and we're just going to get mad at each other on some of these things.
No, I'm just saying it's irrelevant whether we agree or disagree on a lot of these topics because it doesn't affect us on a day-to-day basis. Some people may say that it does, but it's not like I can change if there's something that's
I can change the
like
daily habit. I can do this. It's just no.
Yeah. So I always find it fascinating that always like, oh, I don't like this person. It's like I used to say all the time, I didn't agree with Obama's politics, but I thought he was a cool dude. It's like I think I'd enjoy hanging out with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that type of person. I mean, you can't deny that Obama was a super charismatic president.
Oh, yeah.
But great speaker. There was a lot of things, and people think about, that quote being presidential. He certainly was something that Trump is not. I mean, Trump is not worried about offending people. He does not care who he offends, and
that's his hallmark. I mean,
it is. That's who he is.
Been apologetic about it, or
and he does what
he
does.
Never tried to change. Like that's who I am. That's who I've been my entire life. That's my brand. Like that's. Yeah.
Now back to El Maya Energy. Our industry has seen these ups and downs. We don't see the chart changing wholesale in the next 5 to 10 years. One of the things that, in my opinion, has probably affected more than government policy has been interest rates. So interest rates that we're expecting to probably before the end of the year see even another half a point drop. And that's only going to help these energy projects because they need to be financed at a lower rate to make the
they have higher risk.
pull off.
I mean, your discount rate is going to be higher on those from risk. So yeah, you need a lower interest rate on it.
Yeah, so I honestly feel that that's probably a bigger play on this. And if Trump's able to bring down interest rates, you're probably going to see more wind farms, despite what the administration, wants to say. Now, last article I wanted to cover today, what is called From Fleets to Apartments, Ensuring No EV Customer is Left Behind. Now, one of the big problems, we talk about this, you and I talk about it a fair amount, is that EV ownership is mostly homeowners, right? You've got a real problem if you're an apartment dweller. But I know a lot of people building apartments that are trying to add chargers. In fact, I know a guy here in Nebraska who develops a lot of what he would call affordable housing, which probably means Section 8, stuff like that in terms of apartment home. He's putting in level 2 chargers in those. So he's including those. I would, my argument is just do level 1, make level 1 plugs available for everybody. I mean, I think that's the easy, no transformer needed.
Yep. Get it out there, give opportunity.
Yeah, and even if the apartment complex ate that cost, it's on level 1 charging, you're not going to be talking a lot of money. Okay. It's a little different in that regard, but let's see.
I've
These,
looked at that before, and it's, if they aid it and it's as an incentive, especially starting out, free covered EV charging, or parking or whatever that might be. That's just part of it. And like you said, I mean, apartment dweller, in our part of the country, I don't know, like $30 a month, maybe, if that, $20
yeah,
a month, and added electricity costs. It's not that much.
no, it's really not. And you think about, I mean, the most, well, I should say most, a lot of apartment complexes provide free water. They cover the
Mhm.
water bill,
Yeah.
and it's probably more than what it would be for somebody charging their car. Um, one of the things is when you're in multifamily, you might be parking on the street, you might be parking in the parking lot, but you generally don't have your own parking space.
Mhm.
Now we have a lot around Omaha. We have a lot that have a garage, but it's outside the building. You're in the normal apartment building, then you walk across the alleyway, and
And you have
there's
two cars.
garages. You might pay $100 a month for a garage bay, and that probably could have electricity in it. If you're paying the $100 a month, that'd probably be
Yeah.
and if it has level 1 charging in there, that's probably good enough, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Because that's when
but
I have friends in Chicago. They're all in condos and what it is, and they talk about that. It's like, well, what happens when somebody gets an EV? Because the garage lights, the garage door, everything in those, it's communal. Like we all share that bill. I'm not individually metered, so it's kind of like, well, I don't want to pay for my neighbor's charging every day. So they're talking about little sub metering, different solutions around it. But people are, that's a real question. Like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
in that building, somebody comes in and they're doing that, then they're probably it's costing everybody in the building like 20 cents a month
I know, but
for a TV, and then
it's the
just it
principle, not
starts
the,
scaling,
the
right?
practicality of it. Of like,
Right. Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
just leave your, or turn your light off when you leave the room, and you'll make up for that difference. Like
I know, but I'm just saying, if
yeah,
if it's $20 a month and there's 100 condos, then that one new EV added 20 cents to everybody's community bill. You know, but everybody's going to feel like they're getting ripped off, those damn EVs. You know, um, but I don't know. In some cases, just the cost of providing a meter to do all that probably would, if you're spending $240 a year on charging their vehicle, that meter might cost you a few $1,000,
yeah.
right? So it might take
You might,
years. It might take 12 years to recoup the cost of the meter. Or so I don't know what one of those meters would cost. Okay, I'm
no,
just
and then to get a new one installed, if you have an electrician come out and you have to have the utility, it's not cheap. I mean, $1,000, yeah, that's a real reasonable set point right there. A couple $1,000.
yeah. I'm just saying it would take a fairly long time to recoup that money.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Yeah.
and even then, you're not really recouping it. You're just charging that customer for what it was, right?
Mhm.
And
Generate
yeah, I'm just saying that there are some things that just make more sense. Of course, if you had the electrician come out and you did 100 spaces at once, it's not going to cost you $1,000 for each space.
Or like you said, a lot of the developers now, you just put it in from day one,
Right.
and it's
That
built in
makes it
that. You don't have
cheap.
to tear anything out, and it gets eaten up in that.
I remember used to be in the security alarm business. And if you went out and you were installing all of these runs to people's windows and doors, and back then everything was hardwired. Okay, there was no wireless. Okay, this is back in the 90s. Okay, folks. And there were starting to be some things that could tap into cellular. Those were really expensive back then. Okay, because cellular was still by the minute back then. And
Oh
it could be
gosh,
like 50 cents a minute to use
I
cellular. Yeah,
forgot
we're
my
talking in the
minutes.
90s.
I gotta check my minutes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You have rollover minutes.
Roll.
Yeah,
Oh man. Whoa,
yeah.
getting
That
nostalgic.
was a big thing. Yeah. But anyways, I'm just saying that it would, you might, every run from the panel to a window might have been $150. But if we
Mhm.
came in and pre-wired the house for subdivision for builders, I think we didn't even charge more than $150 to pre-wire the whole house where every window would have a contact, because it was that easy to just
that easy. You're not
run it.
Drywall. Yep.
Yeah, because you didn't have all that extra work. So that was a normal thing to have everyone. But of course, then the goal was you were coming back and getting that homeowner about the house to connect, and then you were getting $20 a month. Okay, which had an effective cost of about $2. Okay, so anyways, it would make sense, but it's tough sometimes to see where some of this goes. That's why I keep encouraging apartment dwellers, hey, let's just go with level 1. I'd love to sell level 2 chargers, but you know what I'm saying? Then you've got to go through the habit of, who's swiping your credit card and, and everything with all that.
Right. It's the public networks become more out there, and you do need a fast charge. Go to your level 2 or go to your DC. But day over day, it's, we've talked about this a lot. You can recover your driving habits overnight with level 1 in most cases. Just leave it plugged in. It might take 8 hours, it might take 10 hours, but you can recover everything you use that day. So it's not like it's a diverging equation there. Like it stays pretty flat.
Yeah, I saw at one point a banner went by mentioning that I'm speaking in Santa Monica on Friday.
Oh,
yeah.
Good job, Yogi.
The Earthstock at the earthstockfestival.com. Yeah, that should be. Oh, there it goes again.
All right, before you go, I'm going to share one with you.
All right.
And my friend sent this over to me from who I'm working with, who's coordinating all my stuff over in Malaysia. But 109 Chinese car brands that are out here and how they're positioning, and the way this was presented is basically China has covered the entire market where they're at. They have luxury down to old stuff, entry, mainstream, but I know I recognize a lot of these on here. We've talked
Yang Wang and Maestro,
a lot,
Xiaomi.
Oh, cow! Like I had no idea there were this many, especially entry.
Okay,
people just
old tech, low cost. Ba. What do you drive? I drive a Ba, a JMC, a Yudo, a Ling Box. I mean, I laughed. I like the one down there with the logo on the left at the bottom. Dayon. I'd be saying, damn.
But yeah, that's right. I was going through this. God, how many? I don't know. I know maybe a dozen of them at the top.
I've heard of Great Wall in the entry mainstream. I've heard of Great Wall.
I think that's come up before, but
yeah. Man, there's just so many of them.
It is just such a
now.
Since I've been doing this show, like my perspective on car markets and everything, it is so shifted to like, yeah, the U.S. brand's still a good thing, but then you see this and go 109 and BYD's popping, all of these, and it's just I can't believe it what they're doing in that space right now.
Like I was telling you, my friend lives in Guangzhou, and he said there's 30 million people, 3 million EVs, which could be bicycles for all I know, but there's 1 million charge points, public charge points. And that's just crazy to think about, that there could be 4 times as many charge points in that one area as there are in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. And you see people say, well, we don't have the infrastructure for EVs. It's like, yeah, well, that's kind of why the government keeps trying to, put money out there for NEVI and things like that. So there, was infrastructure. They were trying to do things to put chargers in poor communities that don't currently have chargers. Because you got to have you got the chicken and the egg syndrome, right? It's just like when people first started buying cars, you had to have roads. And you had to, you couldn't just run it through the gully, and
I thought you were going to go with gas stations, but it's roads.
Roads. I mean,
you need to be able to drive them somewhere,
right?
You fill them up with gas.
Yeah, I mean, you could take your horse pretty much anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But you need roads to be able to drive a car, and that's that was a challenge. Somebody had to pay to put in roads, and you and I see the inevitable that EVs are going to replace at least 95% of gas cars
It's going
at
there.
some point.
Yeah.
There's still going to be some applications for gas cars, I think.
It's
EVs,
really hard to get that like oomph and that power density that you get with gasoline with electric. There are still some where it's just it does
we
make
talk about
sense.
towing, heavy construction where you're
Yep.
building roads. There's a lot of applications that are probably still going to need to be fueled by fossil fuels, but like farming, absolutely should be all electric. There's no excuse to still be buying gas-powered combines. Not when that combine can charge right there at the farm,
Mhm.
and you got a perfect setup for that. There's so many things where all electric heavy equipment makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that we have it yet. Anyways,
It's I don't know. Everything we've seen, it's getting there, and it's economically driven. I mean, it's just cheaper.
yeah. Oh, let me see. Peak. At its peak, there was over 200 manufacturers in China. I think you're right, and they're already seeing that consolidation.
Yeah.
But when you think about the consolidation in the United States, when out of the last 100 years, the only successful car company that exists today is Tesla. Every other car company that started in the past 100 years has gone bankrupt. All your big three are older than that. And but the big three have absorbed.
I mean, Ford's about the only one that didn't take the bailout, right?
Right. They didn't need it. I'm not saying that there hasn't been instances where even they didn't have trouble, but I'm just saying, Tesla's done remarkably well. And now we're seeing, Rivian and Lucid, but those are such small car manufacturers that it's hard to fathom either of them ever getting into that million car a year market where Tesla's making almost 3 to 4 million cars a year. It's hard to really see that happening. Lucid, I don't think it ever will. Rivian, yeah, maybe at some point it'll break 1 million. You never know. It might still be 10 years from now, but I don't think they're going away, right? Either of them. And so that'll still be some kind of accomplishment because it's tough to be in that space. Anyways, folks, I want to thank everybody for watching. The next show will be on Tuesday with Bill. Mike's going to be gone for a while. There's no show this Friday because I'm gone. Bill's gone. Bill's at the Sierra Club for an EV show on Friday, and I'm obviously I'll be in California. Anyways, Mike, thanks so much. Have a good trip to Asia.
I'll report back what I see.
Anyways, all right. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.